what's up guys, and welcome back to Move Plus. I hope you've had an awesome week. Our workout today is going to have 4 parts to it. So what we're going to be looking at doing is kicking things off with the warm-up, getting the body prepped for all the hard work. We then have the build section, which is going to be 2 short 3-minute AMRAPs separated by a 30-second rest, so a little bit of kind of sprint work there. We then have a slightly longer piece for move, which is going to be a 10-minute alternating EMOM. Then we have a finisher of some arm work. So circling back around to that warm-up, we're going to kick things off with 1 minute of cardio of your choice. We're going to go with good old-fashioned jumping jacks, so nice simple movement, doesn't take a lot of space. From there, the next 4 minutes, we're going to cycle through as many rounds as we can of 30 skips. So just our normal single unders. That's going to roll into 20 plank shoulder taps. So down in plank position and tap in the opposite shoulder. And then we're going to move into 10 tuck ups. So from hollow into that tuck position. So that'll just be on repeat for those remaining 4 minutes. Em, you good to go?
Yep.
All right, so starting in 10, we have that 1 minute of cardio of your choice. You guys can be creative and do your own thing here if you want to, or you can do the same as us. And let's go for it. So main things we're going to look out for if you are doing jumping jacks, guys, that the hands should pretty much contact the thighs or at least get close to them and touch overhead, or again, at least get close. You want to get a nice full range of motion. Always good to go nice big sweeping arm positions there, just so we get the maximum amount of work through the shoulders. Sometimes we'll see people kind of short tuck it and have bent arms, that sort of thing. We want to go nice and big with that shoulder movement. Feet are just going to jump in and out, so you'll be feet pretty much together in the middle of it and then just outside of shoulder width at the outside stance. So about 25 more seconds on this. Remember, from here we have that 4-minute block of as many rounds as we can, 30 skips, 20 plank shoulder taps and 10 tuck ups. Okay, might have to do a quick shoelace pit stop there, I reckon, before the skips. There we go. All right, so moving into this next piece now. So 4 minutes, we're going on rotation, 30 skips, 20 plank shoulder taps, 10 tuck ups. There we go. So take this time to kind of slowly ramp the body up to intensity. Hopefully that first minute was just a bit of the kind of the wake up and getting the bones moving. And then over these 4 minutes, we're going to start to kind of climb the intensity. So hopefully your kind of first cycle of this and your last cycle is an increase in speed. You want to take that time just to kind of rev the engine a little bit before we get into build and move and that finisher. Okay, so I'm just moving through those shoulder taps now. Very important with this, she's keeping the body dead still, so there's not a big sway side to side. She's not jackknifing her hips up really high. She's keeping her shoulders and her head over the top of her hands. All right, going to the tuck ups now. So with this one, you'll go from basically a laid back kind of or a hollowed position with the arms forward up into almost like a V-sit or a tucked V-sit position at the top. You can kind of just go as deep as you can, or if you want to, you can even tap the heels as a marker if you like a bit of a marker at the end of the movement. Okay, so back into the skips. So the foot contact with the ground will be quite similar to those of you who did jumping jacks like we did. It'll be very much just kind of the ball of the foot. The heel will just stay hovering the whole time. And thinking about just nice tall posture. So if you find yourself like jackknifing at the hips or tucking into a ball, try to straighten that out and have this idea of just springing off the balls of the feet. Now you notice with this M setup, sort of a slightly wider than shoulder width stance at the feet. Hands are in somewhat narrow, so this is just giving her some stability. You'll find that when you take one hand away, your body will want to lurch to one side, and that's kind of the beauty of this movement is it's training that midsection to lock it in place. So we've got about 2 more minutes. So you want to try and mimic this leg position, guys, so it's knees and ankles together, toes pointed, so we've got nice active legs. This is predominantly an ab or midline kind of movement, but we want every part of the body active as we do this. All right, so back into the 30 skips. About to roll into the last 90 seconds. M's arm position is quite narrow, which is what we're after. If you find yourself kind of reaching really far out, it's just going to tax those shoulders, and it's generally a dead giveaway. Your rope's probably a little too long as well, so if we can get that rope shortened in, elbows tucked in a little bit more, the whole thing's just going to be a bit faster and a bit more efficient. So that's something to play around with. 20 on the shoulder taps there, and then going into the 10 tuck-ups. Now, if you ever find yourself getting your shoulders on the ground with this one, generally means we're not in the right spot. So sometimes we'll feel like we're kind of clunking back onto the shoulders. Should feel like you're just kind of rounding down onto that low back, almost to sort of the bottom of the rib cage there. Okay, we've got 40 seconds left. We'll make a dent into another round. Okay, last 20 seconds. So you want to have nice, sort of active, like protracted shoulders with this. You should feel like you're kind of pushing the ground away with the hand that's on the floor. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that's the warm-up done. Grab yourself a quick drink, have a bit of a chill, and then we're going to check out the build section next. Okay, so guys, we're going to check out the build section now. So how this one's going to run is we have 2 3-minute blocks. There'll be a 30-second rest in between them. Both of those 3-minute blocks are an AMRAP, so we're doing as many rounds as we can in those 3 minutes. Now, the first 3-minute block, we're going to alternate between 10 slow dead bugs. So that's going to look like this. So 10 repetitions of that. We then go into 5 plank to pike, which is going to look like that to there, and just going back and forth on those for 5. So those 2 movements will cycle for 3 minutes. We then get a 30-second break. We go into the second block of 3 minutes where we're going to see alternating V-ups. Okay, so reaching for that alternating leg position there, and then that goes into another set of the 5 plank to pike. So same secondary movements, just the first one that changes. You good to go? Yeah. All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So when we're doing the slow dead bug, guys, at the best of times, this is usually a pretty slow movement anyways, but we're going to slow it down even more. So thinking sort of 3 to 5 seconds per rep, really get some good time under tension. And the main thing we're seeing here is Em's maintaining a really nice neutral spine, right? So even as the opposite limbs extend, she's not got any change of her pelvis or her rib cage and shoulders. Those two things, their relationship with one another stays exactly the same. So that's that control piece. You know, think about kind of drawing the belly button to spine and really holding strong through there. As we move into the plank to pike, setting up like a push-up position, okay? You're gonna start with sort of the head and shoulders over the top of the hands, so we're slightly forward loaded, and then it's a big push back, like butt to the roof, trying to drive your head between those arms. And you'll notice that she kind of, for a moment, pops up onto the toes, really try and get some good elevation through there. Okay, so we're going back onto the dead bugs again. So a good idea with this one is to think about trying to create as much length in the body as you can, but you want to be aware that there'll be a certain point of reaching that your body will almost want to kind of arch that back a little bit, which we don't want. There should be sort of a natural curve to that low back that we want to just maintain and hold in place. You should be able to breathe through this. Like, we don't want you to hold your breath the whole time, but it will be kind of like a controlled breathing. So we're just kind of keeping this tied in really well the whole time. We'll go back into the plank to pike. Now you might find if you have really, really tight hamstrings, really tight shoulders, this might be a fair bit of a challenge, and that's okay. What you can do to kind of alleviate that a little bit is to go a little wider with the setup. So the feet can come out a little wider, even the hands can go a little wider if you've got really stiff shoulders, and that will just allow a little bit more fluency into that pushback. We've got 1 more minute, we might be able to squeeze 1 more round out. So again, as you move through it, guys, keep checking in. Am I sticking to that slow tempo, or am I starting to kind of slip into normal tempo? Normal tempo, I would say it's probably about a 2-second rep. This is going to be more of a 3 to 5 second rep. Okay, we've got 30 seconds left in this first block. So when she comes down to that plank position, guys, it's just looking for a straight line through the whole body. Last 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and resting. All right, so 30-second rest. You can grab a quick drink of water, give things a bit of a shake off. We're going to move to the second 3-minute block, which is almost the same, except we're going to go 10 alternating V-ups into the 5 plank to pike. Okay, 10 seconds. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're going to see the legs alternate the kick. Both hands are going to move up, but it's the legs that go one at a time. And we're going to see as long a leg, like at a pointed toe, as much as possible. That again might be a bit of a challenge if you have tight hamstrings, but do your best, ask a little bit more of that hamstring flexibility. This movement is going to be a good one as well to sort of open up the hamstrings too, so the two things will work well together. It's a nice active shoulder as she pushes back, so she's really forcing the ground away, driving that head through towards her toes. So we'll see the shoulders staying off the ground the whole time. The low back is going to kind of have a momentary little touchdown as she leans back between reps, but there's never a point where those shoulders relax back. So that's that kind of ribbed down, hollowed sort of position. All right, so moving back into the plank to pike. So you want to stay nice and rigid through that midsection, guys, especially when you lower yourself back into that plank position. The tendency is when we get tired, and obviously we've kind of doubled up with another abdominal movement, it's going to get fatigued, that you'll want to kind of sag through and drop those hips. We want to be really aware of when we hit that nice flat position. It should be like a straight line through head, shoulder, hips, knees, and ankles. If you feel like you're kind of dropping below that line, slow it down, retake a bit more of that control. Okay, so we've got about 45 seconds left. Okay, last 15 seconds. Three, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that is the build section done, guys. Have a little bit of recovery time. We're going to check out move next. All right, guys, we're going to check out the move workout now. So this one is a 10-minute alternating EMOM. We've got 5 stations that will rotate a minute on each. We'll go through that twice, obviously, to make up the 10 minutes. What we're looking at in minute 1 is cardio of your choice. Now, this is going to pop up twice. So we need 2 different options with this one. What we're going to do for this first minute is high skips. So that's just on the spot, alternating knee and arm raising up, just bounding on that foot. Minute 2, we've got dumbbell ground to overhead. So from floor straight up to lockout there. You can do that as a snatch or a clean and jerk as long as it gets from ground to overhead. Minute 3 is going to be sit-ups. So sitting up on the ground, knees butterflied out, moving in and out of that one. When we go to minute 4, this is going to be the second cardio choice. So we're going to go with running step-ups. We've just got a low plate there, back and forth on that one. So you'll need 2 options for that. You can do the same as us, or you can have your own ones. That's cool. 5th round there is going to be the dumbbell hollow. So hollow position, holding a dumbbell pointed up at the roof. Okay, and as I said, we're going to go a minute on each of them and run through that twice. You good to go, Em?
Yeah.
All right, starting in 10. So we've got our minute 1, which is cardio, we're gonna go those high skips for 60 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So just on the spot with this one, as I said, it's going to be opposite leg to arm. This is one of those ones, if you haven't done much before, can be easy to kind of get the wires crossed. So take a moment to go slow at the start and just make sure that the right knee is coming up with the left hand, left knee with the right hand, and nice tall posture. We're just going to be kind of springing off the foot. And you'll notice as well, she kind of does like a double tap. Yeah, it's tap, 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 like that, going back and forth. Just going to keep this continuous for that first minute. 30 more seconds on this one. Now obviously along the way here guys, you can take rest where you want to, but we want to fill up that 10 minutes with as much work as we can possibly do. My suggestion, what I always find works well, is maybe leaving the last 5 or 10 seconds of each minute just to catch your breath and then get yourself set up for the next movement. And that can be often enough rest just to get you set up. All right, so moving to the ground to overhead next for the following minute. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So main thing, no matter how you do this one, whether it's a snatch or it's a clean and press, is that we're keeping the back nice and straight and the knees nice and open. So you'll see at the bottom of the movement as she taps the ground, the shins are nice and vertical or possibly slightly pressed outwards just to get that good tension through the hips. And she's making sure that the spine's nice and elongated. She's not rounding over and just kind of getting to a bad humped position to reach for the floor. She's hinging at the hips and then driving with that, opening that hinge to create that momentum. Now looking at the top position there, she is ending up with that bicep next to her ear, right? So if you can still see your arm and you can still see the dumbbell, it's either too far forward or you're possibly leaning your head back, which we don't want. So try to have this moment where it just slightly reaches out of view. I'm going with a single object there. If you happen to have 2 objects, you can obviously do double if you want to, that's cool. All right, so moving to the sit-ups next, and go for it. So what we want to think about this, whether you're using abnat or not, or whether you're using anything underneath that low back, doesn't make a difference. We want to think about keeping the hips still. That's the same across the board. Often when we do sit-ups, there's this feeling of like kind of shuffling along the ground or lifting your bum up and then slamming it back down again. Think of the hips as like the anchor, and that's the home base. The upper body is going to kind of move independent of that. So we don't want to have too much, if any, movement through those hips. Obviously you will kind of roll back onto your butt, but we don't actually want to slide anywhere on the ground. As you've got those 2 markers, which is the ground behind her head and the toes, and that's to ensure we hit the same range of motion every single time. Okay, 15 more seconds, and we'll be moving to the cardio option 2. All right, so setting up for this secondary cardio minute, guys, we've got the running step-ups. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. As I said earlier, guys, you can pick your own versions of these if you want to. Things like jumping jacks, things like skipping, whatever you want to do is cool, as long as it's continuous, jacks that heart rate up, and you can keep it under good control. We've deliberately gone with a very low step up here, and that's just so she can blitz through these without ever having to stop. She's just going to stay on the balls of the feet the whole time. Okay, 30 more seconds. What you would find would happen if we had picked a really big box, like a big 20 or a 24, it would slow things down dramatically, whereas we want to see things just nice and non-stop. Okay, 20 seconds. I'm going to go into dumbbell hollow next in a moment. Okay, 10 seconds. We'll get ourselves ready for that. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this one, guys, we've got the arms reached up towards the roof. Nice solid grip on the outsides of that dumbbell. You might be using a loaded backpack or a kettlebell or something, but just make sure you've got a good grip on it. Shoulders should be up off the ground, so we don't ever want to see that low back kind of arch and the shoulders get down. You should be able to feel your lower back being the main part that is pressed into the floor. And just take a little strategic break there, which is totally fine, guys. You can kind of designate when that's going to happen. Okay, but we've got the straight legs, toes pointed, everything's tensioned on. If you find this is extremely difficult, guys, to the point where you can only hold it for 5 or so seconds, you can ditch the dumbbell, or you can even shorten into a short tuck, so that's knees bent. Okay, go with something that's going to allow you to hold it for a decent amount of time. All right, so we're going to cycle back around to the top of the list. We've got the high skips again. This is our second run through. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So I like this one as an option, like if you're limited for space, limited for equipment, that sort of thing, just allows you to kind of operate in a small confined area. You might be doing this in your bedroom, or maybe it's a living room somewhere there's not a lot of room to move around. So this is a good one to go for. We're thinking about Em's getting her knee up to about hip height. That's kind of, if we want to have sort of a standard movement with this, it's just make sure we get that nice big high knee raise. 30 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds, so we'll get ready for the ground to overhead. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, one of the things you'll notice is if you're using a single weighted object like Em is, as opposed to, like a backpack or 2 dumbbells or 2 kettlebells, obviously there's going to be a little bit of kind of rotating to that midsection so we can get centered. But for the most part, what she's doing is keeping the shoulders and the hips and everything pretty square to the front. So she's making an effort to not over twist and round herself off into a bad position. She's keeping good tension and having that dumbbell basically run a straight line down the middle of herself. And we're going both heads of the dumbbell to the floor just to ensure we get that nice full range of motion. Nice work, Em. Okay, 10 seconds, so we'll move to the sit-ups next. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So it's very important as you move through sit-ups, guys, you want to have that feeling of the rib cage to pelvis kind of relationship. That is going to open and close. Right? We talked about in the last round the hips kind of staying in the one spot. We want to have those ribs be able to go back and leave the pelvis behind. If I sort of stay tucked in a hollow and lift my bum up, like the whole thing's going to rock back with me, I need to be able to be a little bit more flexible through there and open that up. So make sure you're getting that nice stretch. This is where that ab mat or a towel or a cushion really comes in handy, just to allow yourself that little bit more range. Usually a dead giveaway that you're not doing that is if you're not able to get your hands or even your shoulders to the ground. We're kind of staying too close there. Obviously the other indicator is that bum lifting up. Okay, 10 seconds. So we'll move to our secondary cardio. So we've got our running step-ups again. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if you're doing the step-ups like this, guys, what you want to think about is trying to keep your center of mass just over the edge of the plate. Because what that means is rather than me moving my entire body mass back and forth, I can pretty much just pivot back and forth through the line of my body, and my feet are just going to kind of reach forward a little bit, reach back a little bit. And that way the mass of my center is going to stay right in the middle there, and I don't have to move the entire body. Good, 20 seconds to go. All right, we'll move to that hollow. Last round. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're back in this dumbbell hollow, guys. Remember, you should just feel like it's sort of the top of your butt and the lower part of your back. So basically, like you can feel like the lower parts of your ribs touching down, but everything else is going to be kind of curved up off that. And nice active shoulder. So as you can see, she's kind of reaching into the dumbbell, keeping the legs nice and locked out. Quick little rest, and then we're going to knock out the last of this. So we've got about 30 seconds till the buzzer. So this is another one of those ones where we do want to try to keep breathing throughout it. You don't want to just hold your breath, but it's going to be sort of small little breaths just to try and keep that tension on. We don't want to fully breathe in and out because then we'll kind of lose that positioning. Last 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that is the move workout done. Have some recovery time. We're going to look at the finisher next. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to check out the finisher now. This one is going to be 6 minutes long. It's an alternating EMOM. So minute 1, what we're going to do is dumbbell curls. So we're going to go with just a single dumbbell holding the ends there. Okay, that's going to be movement 1. You do that for the full first minute. Second minute is going to have 2 pieces to it. So what we're going to see in the first 30 seconds is dumbbell press. So it's a strict press to overhead. The other 30 seconds of the minute is going to be a hold overhead. And those 2 things will go back and forth for the 6 minutes. Good to go? Yep. All right, going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So what we want to see across both of these movements, guys, is they are nice, strict movements. You don't necessarily have to go excessively slow, but there should be no momentum, no kind of explosiveness to this. It should be nice, constant tension, making that particular musculature work. If you find yourself kind of leaning or doing any kind of bobbling or anything like that, that makes it easier for you, you want to slow that down. Should feel like you're kind of going maybe about 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, that sort of thing. Now with the curls here, we're going to think about trying to keep the upper arm as still as possible. So the elbows are going to kind of squeeze in against the rib cage, shoulders are going to draw back a little bit, and then we want to see a nice full range of motion. So it's going to be an extended elbow, right? Even though we're not going to tension off and relax, we're going to reach into it to open it right up. And then we're curling up. We can see Em gets to the point where she's maybe just below her collarbones. And we don't go any further than that because otherwise those elbows are going to creep out. Those biceps are going to tension off and we kind of lose that feel. All right, moving to the press now. So basically where we finish the curl at the top there, we're just bringing it right into the collarbones now. Those elbows can come forward for the bottom of this. And everything from the rib cage down is locked in place. So abs are tight, butt's tight, quads are tight. We're digging the feet into the ground and driving up to a full overhead. So you notice that Em's head is going to kind of pop through at the top there. 3, 2, 1. So she's up into the hold now. So this is going to kind of be a little bit of test of how flexible your shoulders are, how well you can hold in that position. Sometimes the press, like being there for a half a second is not so bad, but if you've got tight shoulders, actually freezing here is going to be a challenge. So this can be a good thing for you if you do have that sort of tightness in your shoulders. This will be good to sort of expose it to that weak position. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and back to the curls. So again, like the other parts of the workout, guys, you can rest where you want to, but we're trying to fill up the time with as much work as possible. So you only take that rest if you absolutely need to. If you feel like you're hitting sort of technical breakdown, have a bit of a breather, but make it quick and jump straight back in. Now we're working with a single dumbbell, both hands on either head with this one. If you happen to have 2 dumbbells or 2 kettlebells or loaded backpack, any kind of weighted object, you can obviously move through the same thing. Just work with what you have at home. Okay, 10 seconds. So a quick little rest here, then we're going to go into the press and the hold. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So you can see at that top there, those elbows just kind of crept forward to get underneath the dumbbell a bit more. It's a bit more advantageous for the press. And then she's reaching, bringing that head through just slightly. So very similar to when we do, like a dumbbell snatch or a dumbbell clean and press, something like that. There should be a moment where the dumbbell disappears out of view just for a moment. So we want to make sure that head is slightly forward of it. 3, 2, 1, and holding. Yeah, see that Em kind of shifted her hand position a little bit. It just allows her to get into a more comfortable position. That's totally fine as long as you've got a good handle on it. Don't want to feel like it's going to slip out of there or roll off your hands or anything. As she's doing this, what she's concentrating on is keeping her ribs down and her butt tucked. Where if we are struggling in an overhead position, usually we'll kind of arch back a little bit. the butt will poke out and the ribs will push out as well. So we're gonna try and fight against that. 3, 2, 1, and back on the curl. So last cycle through now. Maybe you want to reach to full extension. Sometimes if you're doing like the single dumbbell like Emmy's there, it can be a little bit hard. You feel like you kind of run into yourself. Reach into it. It's really important for the health of our elbows and our biceps. We want to get that nice full range of motion and not just shorten the top of it. If you're getting fatigued, you might find those shoulders will want to creep forward. As you're curling up, those shoulders might want to round forward. So make sure you're checking that in, keeping them pinned back the whole time. Okay, 10 seconds. All right, so about to move into the final minute of this. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So you'd be tempted as that fatigue creeps in, guys, to start dipping and driving. It's just a natural little sort of instinct the body has to try and make the job easier. It's starting to turn into a push press. You want to make sure you're flexing those quads, keeping those knees locked in place. The whole purpose of this drill is to strengthen the shoulders, so we want to make sure that they're doing the maximum amount of work. 3, 2, 1, and we're holding. "20 seconds to go." So this can be a really good drill for shoulder mobility, guys. It's going to get you strong in that sort of extended position there. So a good one if you do have tight shoulders. Play around with this one. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, guys, that is our finisher done. We're going to have a look at some stretching next. Alrighty guys, now that all the hard work is done, we're going to get into a little bit of cool down work just to kind of finish things off nicely. So we're going to go through 2 mobility drills. The first one we're going to look at is what we call a baby maker. So I'm going to chuck a minute on the clock. Basically what's going to happen is you're going to grab onto your toes in a squat stance. Then you'll sink the butt down and drive those knees out as wide as possible. Now we're going to do this one quite slowly, so you can see Em's going to kind of hang out at the bottom for maybe 3 to 5 seconds. It's a slow 3 to 5 second up phase. She'll hold the top for 3 to 5 seconds and then the same on the way down. So it's really taking your time to go through this. Now if you've got nice sort of flexible, healthy ankles, knees and hips, should be fairly easy to sink into the bottom of it. If you're a little bit tight, guys, you might find that your heels will want to lift or that your knees are going to kind of collapse in. So if you need to, you can kind of hang on to a door frame, or if you have access to like a post or a weightlifting rack or anything like that. Anything you got at home you can hang on to. Maybe the leg of a dining room table might work well, but just something so you can kind of sit back on those heels and just move in and out of this squat position, making sure that the arms are locked out and the knees are on the outside. 3, 2, 1. All right, so that's our first drill. The second we're going to do is going to be actually moving kind of between 2 positions. So we've got up dog, which is hips down, arms locked out. Then we're going to push back to child's pose. So we're going to bend the knees, sink back onto our heels and stretch those arms out in front. So again, we'll go for a minute on this one. Just going back and forth. And we'll do it with a similar tempo to the baby makers. So about 3 to 5 seconds at end range, 3 to 5 seconds sinking back or forwards through it, and then 3 to 5 seconds at the other end range. So we'll find that as we move into this front position, it's going to be really nice getting down into abs. You might even get a little bit of hip flexors as well. And then as we push to the back position, that child's pose, we're going to get really into like a lot of lats. You might get a little bit of low back if you can kind of sink your butt back far enough. And it's just a nice kind of floss back and forth through there, loosening up through the midsection, loosening up through the shoulders. Ten more seconds. And done. Alrighty guys, so if you have time, let's go through that 3 or 4 more times, just trying to loosen things up. If there's any other mobility that you feel like you need to do in regards to the workout that we've done today, feel free to knock yourself out. But otherwise, we'll catch you next time. That was your Move Plus workout.